Okay, so I guess we can start now. Welcome everyone to this panel discussion where we will be talking about artificial intelligence. We hear about it in the newspapers, social media. It's just everywhere now. So we are just going to try and contextualize it properly and have a better idea of what it is and basically what's going to happen with it. We have five great speakers. They're all very different. You will see now when I start presenting them. And I think each of them is going to be able to bring their own perspective and their own ideas to basically what AI is. So I'm just going to do a short presentation for each of them. First off, we have Amparo Alonso. Welcome. Thank you for being here with us. She's a professor and coordinator of the AI Research and Development Group in the Department of Computer Science here in Coruña. She promotes lines of work that apply AI and machine learning to disciplines such as medicine and fire management. And she has also been the president of the Spanish Association for AI for 8 years, which is a really long time. So she's a very important person in terms of AI in this country. So again, welcome. And then we have JJ. He is a PhD in digital economics and honorary member of the Royal European Academy of Doctors. And he has worked with many international companies, helping them drive the growth of many international markets. Right now, he's working at Estrella Galicia. We love that here in Mundos. I know you know. He's an investor and an advisor of Web2 and Web3 companies. And today he will bring us that business perspective on the arrival of AI to our jobs and, well, to our lives in general. Then to my left, I have Rajesh. He's been with us in Mundos for a couple of years now. So you're a pro now in this. You've been here multiple times, this scenario. And he spent 23 years at Walt Disney Animation Studios in a variety of management and contributor roles, including incubating and managing the Hyperion Renderer team. Recently, he started his PhD in ETH Zurich, where he conducts research on the intersection of rendering and machine learning at Disney Research. We can't wait to hear you talk about that a bit more. We have Francisco Menendez with us today. He holds a degree in law and a master's degree in film industry management. He's a lawyer and he develops his activity at the law firm Willow Legal Consulting. And I think it's really good that he's here with us because it's always really important to take into account all the legal aspects surrounding AI. And one of his expertise areas is intellectual property, which, yeah, very, very important, the topic we're discussing today. And last but definitely not least, we have Andrew. He is an interactive and immersive content creator specializing in techniques and media, such as virtual, augmented reality, installation, live events, mobile and web applications. And he has managed projects for very big international clients as well. He also created the post-production team and workflows for MSG's new Sphere Studios. And we are very happy to have you all with us today. So let's give them a round of applause, the welcome that they deserve. Come on, guys. Okay, so to start this panel, I'm gonna ask you, Amparo, because you have a lot of experience in the field for many years, and I want to start in a bit more of like general terms before we get into very specific like use cases or applications. So I wanted to ask you, first of all, what would be your definition for AI, but also how have you seen society's perspective of AI shift in the last, I was going to say years, but it's even months now because it's going so fast. So if you could tell us a bit about that.
About definitions is, you know how scientists are. So we have a lot of them. I rely on on the academy. And the definition is this is a part of computer science. And what we do is to design and develop machines and software that act in ways that if a human was performing that, you'll say it's intelligent. And there are several fields on that, like we have machine learning, so we can recognize language and also have machines that talk in natural language, recognize images, and have different, like reasoning, learning, things that a human can do. What happened also, I think, is that most people think this is a relatively new discipline, and it's not true. It's something very, well, it has quite a few years. I will not say it's old, because yesterday someone told me it's the same date of birth that he had, so it's 1956. Since then, we had like these springs and winters in which discipline was up or just was in the academic field.
Could you tell us about a bit more, like explain what the springs and winters are? Because I don't know if everyone is familiar with those terms.
Okay, so at the beginning, everything was wonderful, like every discipline, because the scientists that work there were able to produce programs that could play chess or, I don't know, search things, discover new theorems or rediscover mathematical theorems and things like that. And even also have a little bit of natural language and everything, but what happened was that after a while, the goals were too ambitious for what we had at the moment in the machines and the capabilities that we had. So we had this drop down. The financial support was cut, and we had the first winter. This means that there is no money for research in artificial intelligence, and the people who work on that survive in their academic, in their research groups. And then after some time, what happened was that we changed the point of view, I think, because the idea of artificial intelligence at the beginning was to be able to produce artificial intelligence in a general matter, kind of the intelligence that we humans have, and that was not possible, so we changed the general point of view to a specific point of view, and then was when the expert systems came. Perhaps some of you know about this. So we had this narrow niche AI in which we have powerful systems, but in a very restricted area. And this was nice for some time also, but at the end, these systems were, most of the knowledge that we use was the knowledge that we need to extract from persons in the field. So what happened is this was not very scalable. And again, another winter came until very recently. We have this new AI based on data due to the digitalization processes that we have and sensorizing everything and the amount of data that we all produce in our connections and mobile devices. And now we have this, what they call the eternal spring. I don't know if it's going to be eternal or not, but what happens here is that we have something disruptive in very short periods of time. So we have this AlphaGo, for example, program, which is this program that was the winner against the world champion in Go, which is a strategic game more complex than chess, apparently. I don't know how to play. And then we have now this ChatGPT everybody talks about and has all this fuss around. And I think that probably in the next years we are going to have these disruption events more nearly in time, each time. And really what happens is that we have AI in almost every field that you can think of. are surrounding us, and there is all these discussions about the risks and the ethics of the discipline, and also things that have to do with the technical monopolies or the I don't know, geopolitical strategy, the job situations and so on. But I think that we also need to talk about the opportunity that this means in several fields, like medicine or just teaching or gaming or any other things. No?
Yeah, that's something I could also experience, because when I started, even studying AI, when people asked, they wouldn't usually know what it was. They asked, "Oh, what is that? Explain it a bit." But now, when I say I work in AI, everyone knows what it is. At least they know a few apps, and they have interacted with systems knowing that they are AI systems like ChatGPT. So I feel like it's very out there now.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to ask you, JJ, the same question, but I want to shift the focus a bit, about how companies or businesses have perceived AI, or how have they changed their minds of what AI is, and if it's an opportunity or a threat in the last months, years, maybe. I don't know if you have.
Well, I think Amparo analyzed very well the evolution of the artificial intelligence during the time. And it's true that everything has changed this year with ChatGPT. It's a new neighbor in the block that is coming and changed the rules for everything. So the business now are quite focused on artificial intelligence. It doesn't mean that before we were not talking about artificial intelligence in the companies, but it was very vague, the idea of AI. I'm talking about the real traditional economies, not the Web 2 super tech giants like Amazon or Google, that they are using AI from a long time ago for taking decisions in business, for daily decisions. But for the real economy, everybody were talking about data and smart data and artificial intelligence, and nobody were using that in reality. And now it's something similar. Everybody is talking about ChatGPT and the AI tools that are changing the landscape. And I ask a lot of people, a lot of professionals, and all of them, they are using for personal use, but they are not still using for professional purposes. On the other hand, it's true that the conversation and the topic, it's on the day-to-day basis. And the companies are starting to analyze how they have to approach to this. It's something similar that we lived some time ago with digital transformation, and how companies should approach the digital tools, business models, etc. And I can guess that it will take time for the traditional companies to take one step. The time will show to us what is going to happen, but I can guess that a lot of things are going to happen in the coming years, but it's going to take time for the companies. On the other hand, for the startups, entrepreneurs, small businesses, I think this is a huge opportunity with AI and the new AI tools.
I agree with you. I think only time can tell.
Yep.
But it's good that it's out there now. More and more companies, they can use it. It's not that they didn't want to. Maybe they just couldn't maybe afford it, or they didn't have the knowledge. So it's starting to make sense now. And I also wanted to talk, so we've seen business a bit more in general, but now I want to focus, of course, in this field. I mean, we are at Mundos Digitales, so we have to talk about VFX, 3D, and new media. So I wanted to ask you, Andrew. I think you probably just have something to say about it as well. I think you'll want to pitch in, but I wanted to talk about companies in the industry that are trying to incorporate AI into their products, or even internally, just for them to use. Do you think they are doing that with the right technical advice, or the right technical guidance? That was the word I was looking for. Or is it just a race, and the important thing is to do it, and do it fast, and not how we're doing it?
That's a complicated question. the, I think chess is a really important. I will answer it, but I think chess is a place to start. Of all the industries, I think chess is not. It's not an industry per se, but of all of the groups and industries impacted by AI, chess is probably the most perfect and pure microcosm of how artificial intelligence can affect a human endeavor. When Kasparov lost to IBM in '93, I think it was, so 30 years ago, it was very immediate. It's over. Chess is done. Humans and chess is over. Here we are 30 years later. Chess is, I would say, stronger than ever as an outside observer. You would think that Kasparov would have drowned in a bottle somewhere, and disappeared. He did the opposite. He became fascinated with AI and has spent the last 30 years really focused on how AI and humans, not just in chess, but on a larger scale, can interact and work together. And he came up with this concept he calls centaurs, where he said, okay, clearly machine can beat man once machine has learned man's that thing. Once machine learned chess, man versus machine, man loses 100% of the time. What about man with machine versus man? Wins 100% of the time. What about man with machine versus man with machine? We're back to where we started. We now have augmented humans that are competing head to head. There's no imbalance anymore. And so he's actually highly encouraging, seeing these new powers, these new tools, these new techniques, and turn into a centaur, get on, become bigger, become stronger. And, just before we took the stage, we were talking about how, if you're 10 times more productive, then there's 9 people out of work. And I strongly disagree with that, and we see it in our industry. There was a Marvel project recently that did a title sequence using AI, and immediately everyone was just like, "You took the artists' jobs!" And I was like, the artists used those tools. If anything, we had more artists working on it. ILM, when they did The Mandalorian season 1, they did a de-aged Luke, and then somebody online did a deep fake of that. And everyone was like, the deep fake was better, AI is gonna win. So what did they do? Now, ILM's process involves deep faking. They film with an actor, they deep fake the actor, and then they do CG on the deep fake. So now they've taken the best of all worlds. They've taken the AI, but they've also incorporated the tools that work well and it's a centaur process. And so the companies that are using AI, there's a lot of noise and a lot of legal kerfuffle about the ethics and the legality of it that are very noisy, and I would say counterproductively so. There's a lot of emotion about it, of a lot of lines being drawn in the sand. It's chess. It's 1993. Kasparov just lost. The concept designers just got beaten by Midjourney. So concept art is over. Every concept artist is going to lose their job. No! No! Every concept artist was just given, instead of pencils and Wacom tablets and pens, they were just given a jetpack. Now, when you work with a concept artist, usually you'll get, if it's a movie, you'll get one piece every few days, maybe one piece a week. Now that same artist can give you hundreds within a week, so that together you can iterate. And then the final artwork will absolutely still be that person. It'll be that centaur's work. But we're talking about going from a process that's sort of like, well, we ran out of time, ran out of money, couldn't afford this, couldn't do that. It's pretty good. We like it. We're happy with that. To actually being able to creatively iterate and go, it's perfect. We're happy with this now instead of we're content with it. So our industry is figuring out how to use all these tools. The dirty secret, you see these companies that are like, we won't work with any VFX facility that uses AI. No AI on our movies. There's AI in everything, and there has been for decades. So it's a stupid argument. The anti-art neo-Luddite argument is a very emotional, and I understand it and I sympathize with it, but AI doesn't think. AI doesn't make creative decisions. It rolls dice randomly. The human prompts it, and the human decides what what to iterate on and what to use, it generates elements. It generates, it generates random noise. It's a fantastic tool. It's an insanely creative collaborator was dumb as hell, and it doesn't know what's good and what's bad. And so the visual effects industry as a whole is slowly going to start using these tools, and we're not going to replace anybody. When I started in visual effects, we worked at 1K, 8-bit, log, basically. And a few years into my career, we went to 2K, and then we went to 10-bit. And every time we made these jumps, and eventually 4K, and then 8K, and I worked at Sphere for 3 years, where it's 16K, 60 frames per second, 16-bit. I always thought, like, man, if I had my computer today 5 years ago, I would be able to work so fast. But the thing is, the industry is a gas. It fills the volume that it's provided. And so AI is going to is a bigger container. It's new talents, new skills, new capabilities. We're not going to fire everyone because we're 10 times more efficient. We're not going to suddenly just go like, oh, this is cool. We will produce content at the exact level that we currently produce it with 10 times less people because we're efficient. No. We're going to, if anything, hire more people because now we can do 10 times more. So you're going to see an increase in the number of projects. You're going to see an increase in iterations. You're going to see an increase in complexity. You may see a decrease in budgets. You might see, I'm not saying that people will not necessarily be laid off. There are jobs that are done. Rotoscoping, dear God, that should go away. I hate rotoscoping personally. I don't hate rotoscopers, but I hate that. That is not I was a 3D tracker for years. We shouldn't be tracking cameras. We shouldn't, for stereo depth, we shouldn't be doing roto. We shouldn't be extracting depth maps. We should be using AI to create depth, and then all of those artists that were doing that very menial task should do other things within our industry that are more creative. Now that the tasks have been replaced. The people don't get replaced, the tasks do. So that was a long answer, but.
I totally agree with that. I think, to me, like most of the creative output is about getting your idea from things in your head to a medium, right? Whether it's painting or whether it's a movie. So anything that can short circuit that process, I think that's a great help because what you end up most of the time, whenever you see a finished film, it's never done. I think people want to do more. People want to make it better, but because of the time and the budget constraints, they have to stop somewhere. So what AI tools can help them is to iterate more and actually realize a more perfect vision of what they have in the mind. So I think even if it allows you to do more iterations or to create more complexity, it's all a boon. And most jobs will transform. They will not go away. I think they will give you a better idea of like how you can use your current skills and then adapt to the tools with the help of AI. And even in technical side, right? The programmers, you now have ChatGPT that can write parts of your code. That's helpful. So you can kind of outsource your mundane parts of your code writing to that process and then focus on the more creative, more on the architecture side of things. You can create bigger software with fewer people. So this kind of also lowers the bar for entry. So like you and I'm not a creative person, but I can now try to get my ideas onto some medium. And similarly, I think lots of startups you'll see come up because now they don't need as many programmers. They can focus on creating things. So 4-person startups with a big AI backend. I think you're going to see a lot more of those where the bar to entry will be lowered, much, much lower, where everybody is a creator at some point. So yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, you just really answered one of my next questions, which was about jobs. So you're making my life really easy here. That's helpful. Now, Fran, we haven't heard from you, but I do have a couple of questions for you. I could have many more, but we don't have the time. So the first one would be, because we talked about technical guidance when you do AI projects or when you do AI implementations, but another really important part, it's legal guidance, which we sometimes kind of forget about because it's a bit, in the limbo now. We don't know what's wrong, we don't know what's right, what's legal, what's illegal. So I just wanted to basically ask you if you think companies developing or trying to work with AI have the necessary legal support, or what would your advice be, basically?
Buenos días. Básicamente, lo que nosotros tenemos que hacer, o qué guías de soporte, los abogados somos bastante torpes, muy torpes. Lo que no está redactado no existe para nosotros. Entonces, eso es una ventaja para la gente que necesita un asesoramiento o empezar a pautar un asesoramiento. Realmente, cuando hablamos de desarrolladores tecnológicos, no contemplan en los planes de negocio, en muchos casos, los asesoramientos jurídicos que son importantes para saber qué se puede hacer y qué no se puede hacer. Es decir, dentro de la inteligencia artificial, tal como comentaba Amparo, ¿no? Estamos todo el tiempo viendo riesgos, beneficios, pero todo esto está muy bien, pero si no hay un asesoramiento legal, no solo en materia de propiedad intelectual, sino en materia de protección de datos, en materia de privacidad y de transparencia, probablemente ese proyecto, por muy brillante que sea, no puede ser llevado a cabo porque entra en usos prohibidos o con sanciones bastante grandes. Entonces, dicho esto, lo que tenemos que observar es, en diferentes disciplinas, que luego entraremos jurídicas, analizar. La realidad es que nos llegan ya con proyectos avanzados, en muchos casos, y luego rehacer ese proyecto es costoso y complicado.
Yeah, I was going to jump back to Spanish, sorry. Yeah, I agree with you. I have another question for you later, but I think that leaving out the legal part of an AI project, I have no idea about, I'm not a lawyer, but I think it's just really important, and I think that lawyers we're going to really regulate and make sure that AI is applied properly, and to make people feel safe so they can talk about AI without that much hate. I don't know if it's the word, but let's say hate. But before going back to that, so we have Rajesh and Amparo, and they work in the world of research, and business world and academic world. They're like two complete different things. But in my experience, every day there are multiple new AI papers to read. Like, it's really, really hard to keep up with everything new that's happening, with even more on the technical side of it. So I just wanted to ask you, we can start with Rajesh and then hear your thoughts of it. Do you think it is necessary to encourage the collaboration between companies in this sector and research centers or universities to make sure that we're building ethical and also useful systems? And if so, what formulas do you think there are, or could there be to do this?
Right, definitely. So I think adding to the legal issues, there are ethical and safety concerns as well. So all the data that is trained today, it's all Western society centric. There are billions of people who speak a different language, who have never been on the internet. Their images, their books, they're not yet there. I think so. We need to kind of make sure that everybody has representation in this. Otherwise, the data will be biased, and the resulting algorithms, what they will spit out, will be biased. So that can increase the inequalities that are already there. So I think these are beyond legal issues. So they are more of a societal, and how do we want to live in this world where AI can be skewed in one direction or the other. It creates more opportunities to create misinformation. So that the industry is the industry. I think it is profit-oriented. It will do what it needs to do to make money. I think that's where the government research comes in. That's where the national labs that countries have, where they are doing more fundamental research into these topics of what is right, what is safe, and how to incorporate that. Then there's legal aspects and worldwide regulations. I think if you treat this as I don't want to be alarmist, but more like a nuclear substance, where you want international regulation, But at the same time, you don't want to hinder progress, right? And there's a delicate balance where you want things to progress, but at the same time, you want to keep an eye on it where it doesn't go off the rails, it doesn't fall into the wrong hands as it becomes better over time. In terms of research, so industry gets its researchers from academia, obviously. So, and there are people who want to do core research, there are people who want to do applied research. There's a mix of all these things that we need to encourage, right? So there are few hotspot centers around the world that are currently doing research. And once the companies get into it, then it starts getting more proprietary. So, right, you and I can only have access to a sanitized version of ChatGPT. So we don't know what happens in the pure data. What will it output? We have no idea, and they have not exposed it, and I don't think they ever will. So to conduct basic research, you need to go back to the core model and try to find out what is the right thing to do, where to put the guardrails. So this is now a company exposed front that you have as a chat interface, and it may or may not be what the AI is doing purely. I think then for like conducting research is hard, right? If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. There are a few people who are good at it. People try to kind of understand the basics and advance it. But on top of that, it's also expensive now because to train these models, you need to spend weeks and teams of hundreds of people like collecting data, curating it, and then using expensive GPUs to train this. So it's not possible for you and I to kind of sit down like, okay, I'm going to create a model and train it. You can create a basic, simple model and do it on your home computer. But to do anything big, you need the large resources, which most of us don't have. So I think that's where the partnership with the universities and industry comes in, where I, as a student, can now have access to large university compute farms, or I can partner with a company like NVIDIA or Microsoft to conduct my research as a student, where they can help me have access to not just the models and the data, but also senior scientists who can help me guide in a proper way.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because it's somehow they're still connected, but the academic wall is still protecting the rest of us from using a system that can be harmful. I don't know if you want to share your thoughts on this relationship between academic and business world.
Yeah, I agree with you in most of the things that you have said. I think that from the point of view of a person who has been always a researcher, I think it's absolutely we need to collaborate with industry, because most of the times, at least in the things that we have done in our research group, there are things that we have done because we wanted to do it. I mean, because we wanted to make research on how to be able to learn this thing, or to be more efficient, or to be more scalable, or whatever. And then when the companies come and ask you to do something, I always have learned new things, because yes, we had these algorithms that can do this and that, but then the needs of the industry were a little different, so they push us further of what we have done before. And I think this is a good interaction, because they benefit from what we did before, but then we learned new things also. And that's important. I also agree with what you have said about it's difficult now to be able to cope with the velocity that the big companies have on research, because we don't have the money, we don't have we have talent, but not a lot of people who can work on this. And we don't have definitely also the machines that they do have. And if you want to work on these things that mainly deal at some point, and most of us do in machine learning now, that deal with large language models, you cannot compete. So what we need to find, I think, is the niche in which you are able to do research that's interesting and that's not of interest for these big companies, that they are looking for another way in the market. So you need to find that niche. I think that's the important thing. For example, in our group now, we are concerned with green algorithms. How can we have more objectives, than more than accuracy? Can we do this with less computer power? Can we do this in another different way? And so we are pursuing things like that. Many others do other different things. And I think that's also important, and something that JJ has said before. We need also to be able to take AI to the small companies, to the smallest companies that we have and that are interested in things that can empower them, but it's not of interest for another companies. I think that AI will grow in that fields in which, there is it's something that's not for great population, but it's important for this industry or for this region. And on that things, we need to do a bunch of things, starting with data, because most of them think that they have data that they don't have, because they need to have it with more quality and not only with quantity. So I think there is a lot of things that we can do, and there is still a long way for collaboration between industry and research groups.
Yeah, because I read a while ago, a couple of months ago, what are the 3 main problems with small companies adopting AI, and I think it was there were no professionals, they couldn't find any professionals to work for them, computational power, and then the complexity that they just assume that it entails, which sometimes might be a bit more than what it actually is or a bit less. I don't know if you want to maybe expand a bit on small companies and their relationship with AI, because I get why they might feel a bit left out, because it's like, oh, Google is doing this and OpenAI is doing that, but I could never have it in my business, and yeah, it's a bit frustrating, I guess.
Well, it's a good point, because when I'm hearing here everybody, I believe that not all the companies are like Disney or Google or Amazon. So the reality of the economy, it's a completely different story. So 90% of the companies are small companies, and they don't have resources, and they are fighting for making profit and for not dying, working 12 hours every day and not seeing their families. That's the reality of the companies. That's why I believe the new generation of AI tools, etc., that are ready to use, can help this type of economy. And they are going to adopt all these kind of solutions as long as it helps them in a very easy way for making more money or for saving money. That's the only 2 drivers that they are putting on the radar. And I believe that now these tools are helping them with real stupid things, but they are like big things for them, like making the accountant. How many hours solopreneurs are investing in making the numbers and submitting all the papers to the bureaucracy? It's insane, and they are not making business when they are doing that type of tasks. And AI is here for helping that. And the difference between a small company and traditional large companies are they are super quick, and they can pivot from one place to another much quicker than the big ones. So that's why I believe they are going to embrace the AI as long as it's easy, okay? Because it's always extremely complex when we know about what we are talking, but they don't know even what is ChatGPT. I was talking to a restaurant owner last week, and he was mentioning something to me like, oh, I hear something that there is like an app that can help doing your thing. You put things and they give you back the result. Say, yeah, it's ChatGPT. So they don't know even what is ChatGPT. We are here in a bubble. So this is not the reality of the society. So I believe it's going to be an impact as long as it's easy to use for them. And ChatGPT is easy, no? It's the magic that it has, that you only have to go to a browser and say whatever you want to say, and the freaking machine is working because the output is really good.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen before. Before that, AI was like, you have to build a server or using a complex machine. People get lost. And the professionals even more. They don't have time. We are building companies of people and directors that they don't have time. It's insane that the people that are running the future of the economy, they don't have time even for meeting with nobody. They don't have time for thinking.
Yeah.
So
accessible might be a
that's the
good
key
word.
thing. And another point that it's for free, no? Because ChatGPT at
Accessible
the very
and free.
beginning was for free, no?
Yeah.
And that's important thing. That you don't have to invest a lot of money to start exploring or start understanding the new tools.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Hopefully, we will see more accessible and hopefully free systems in the future. So I think we could be talking about this for a really long time, but I just wanted to ask one last question. I had a few more prepared. It's for you. I know you know it. I just want you to tell us a bit about how laws are being or not being applied to AI, and just a bit of guidance as a...
Pues bueno, básicamente lo importante de todo esto, entre otras cosas, es enfocarnos jurídicamente donde estamos en el mundo, ¿vale? Entonces, jurídicamente no existe una regulación homogeneizada mundial, pero sí que la Organización para la Cooperación y el Desarrollo Económico lanzó una serie de guías y de cuestiones que han sido debatidas en sede de los legisladores norteamericanos, de Reino Unido fundamentalmente, China y la Unión Europea. En el caso de la Unión Europea, que es donde estamos en concreto, hace un mes se ha aprobado el primer borrador de ley consensuado en la Comisión Europea, que viene a dictaminar que fundamentalmente lo que viene es a regular o a intentar regular el uso de la inteligencia artificial y los desarrollos de la inteligencia artificial sobre 4 puntos fundamentales: la protección de los derechos fundamentales, la privacidad, la protección de datos y la libertad de expresión. En torno a esos 4 principios fundamentales, lo que ha hecho es determinar 4 tipos de riesgos aplicados a los desarrollos o a los sistemas de inteligencia artificial. Existen proyectos de inteligencia artificial que son de uso prohibido, o sea, no puede hacerse, que son cuestiones de manipulación sobre opiniones, cuestiones vinculadas con la sanidad, cuestiones vinculadas con lo que es la clasificación de seres humanos por ideologías, etc. Entonces, este tipo de usos, este tipo de aplicaciones no van a ser permitidas en la Unión Europea y probablemente en el resto de legislaciones mundiales. Luego está el segundo escalón, que es existe un riesgo, pero no hay una prohibición de uso, ¿vale? Este tipo de aplicaciones de inteligencia artificial pueden crear fundamentalmente impactos adversos contra la seguridad o la sanidad de las personas, pero, sin embargo, no genera una manipulación, un mal uso de todos esos datos que se reciclan, ¿no? Entonces, dicho esto, lo que la Unión Europea dice es este tipo de aplicaciones de inteligencia artificial van a ser restringidas desde el punto de vista que antes que se ponga en marcha la comercialización o el uso de estas aplicaciones, van a tener que ser aprobadas previamente por la Unión Europea. Luego vamos al riesgo limitado, y dentro del riesgo limitado pues hablamos de los chatbots, hablamos de los deepfake, ¿no? De todas estas aplicaciones que lo único que van a tener en cuenta, o lo que importa mucho a los creadores, temas de propiedad intelectual, este tipo de herramientas de creación de contenido, lo que busca la Comisión Europea es que exista una transparencia. Uno, dónde van esos datos y de dónde recopila usted esos datos, ¿no? Cómo ha entrenado esta inteligencia artificial. Y luego vamos a un bajo riesgo, que no hay obligación prácticamente, bueno, de cumplir protocolos de protección de datos y demás, como cualquier empresa o cualquier tipo de aplicación, pero que no tienen un impacto ni en la sanidad ni en la privacidad de cada persona. Entonces, dicho esto, lo que la Unión Europea trata de hacer, y volvemos a lo mismo, es intentar buscar un mix entre no frenar el negocio, dar seguridad jurídica a los negocios, pero preservar los derechos fundamentales de los ciudadanos. Este borrador de ley fue aprobado, o sea, fue consensuado en la Comisión Europea, ahora va a Parlamento, a trámite parlamentario, pero por lo menos ya tenemos un boceto de dónde nos tenemos que mover y qué no hacer de momento, ¿no? En el asesoramiento que prestamos a clientes está el tema de vamos a prever por dónde va este reglamento para que cumplas con estos estándares. Luego, el otro gran tema es el tema de la propiedad intelectual, ¿no? De los desarrollos o las obras generadas por inteligencia artificial pueden ser protegidas. Pues no. Es decir, la finalidad de la propiedad intelectual es proteger a las personas físicas que crean una obra. Entonces, en tanto en cuanto yo utilice, o sea, el resultado del trabajo de la inteligencia artificial sea meramente mecánico de la inteligencia artificial y no exista una intervención humana que le dé esa originalidad y podamos entender que eso es una obra, es decir, la inteligencia artificial como creadora finalista, eso no se protege en propiedad intelectual, ni en España, ni en Europa, ni en Estados Unidos. Ahora bien, si utilizamos la inteligencia artificial como medio para crear, ahí sí que el desarrollo sí que está protegido por propiedad intelectual. No quiero ser muy aburrido porque tampoco. Entonces, estos son los puntos principales de dónde estamos normativamente hablando.
No, I think that was like a great outline, so we'll have like a general idea of it. Andrew, I really had another question for you, but I really, really want to
Open up. Yeah, let's do it.
Let some people ask questions. I don't know if anyone has a question they want to ask to any of our speakers. We don't bite. Yeah, we have one over there.
Hello, everybody. There is a particular aspect of our relationship with the IA that I would like to open up to ask you how you deal with it. Which I'm a visual effect artist, so I work on image and I work in creation. And you know, creating is always a hard process. Sometimes you hit a wall, sometimes you dance gracefully with what you're doing. But interacting with artificial intelligence in creation, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. We don't know exactly what kind of creature we're dealing with. So I would like to ask you how you deal with artificial intelligence, but not only in creation, because I think science or business or anything can be into the same world in this. How you deal with it? Do you think you have to foster it like a kid, or it's a companion, or you enslave it without guilt, or how you deal with it, kind of it?
I can start on that one. So in my career, I've done everything from sort of, low-level task, not even an artist, right? Just like tasks, to artists, to supervisor, CG supervisor, to VFX supervisor, director, creative director. When I started kind of really messing with, when Midjourney came out, I was like, that's interesting. I actually only used it to make a couple of jokes, like some memes, and then, but then the first time that I really sat down and was like, maybe this could help me with that problem, I really quickly realized that working with the generative AI, not AI in general, and I would argue not even really working with ChatGPT or any of the language models, but specifically the generative, Stable Diffusion, Midjourney, even the audio tools, is the exact mental process of being a creative director or a supervisor working with a junior to mid-level artist. Verbatim. Verbatim. It is the process of conveying your thoughts, your direction, via some facsimile intermediary, your words, sketches, text to image, image to image, and describing prompt engineering, describing sort of, what you want. And the joy of working with the generative AIs is because they are random number generators, or, they follow random paths, they surprise you. And so you say, I want you to draw me a red door in a green field, and it gives you a red tower. And you go, that's interesting. Okay, I hadn't thought about that. What if the tower's a castle? And they can take you in a place that's very freeing and energizing. They're actually insanely difficult when you want to be very prescriptive, when you want them to be an unthinking slave that you tell them exactly what to do and they execute it perfectly. That's when they're most frustrating. And so it really is the process of being a director, which a director does not dictate. A director leads. A creative director doesn't dictate. If a creative director or a director could do it themselves, they would. And so they can't. So they have to use direction and guidance and decisions and iteration. And that's what's so exciting about these tools, is suddenly you have this army, infinite army of sort of junior to mid-level artists that your mid to senior and supervisors and creative leaders can amplify the creative army, and marshal them. They're great at generating elements. They're terrible at coming up with something end to end.
I don't know if anyone wants to add something.
I think, also, I want to add that these tools are like in their infancy right now. So this is very new. And right now, they're a little bit clunky in terms of like for mid-journey, you have to go to a Discord server. But over time, things will evolve. And the interfaces will get better. Right now, you need to know this magic incantation of the long prompt you have to type. And there's this thing about, prompt engineering could be a new job. But over time, I think that will go away, that kludginess that you have with the interface. And then I think it will be, and then second thing will happen is it'll be faster. So if you don't get what you want, you just do another one. So as long as you have options, I think it'll allow you to make decisions. And then on the specificity side, you will ultimately also have tools by control net or things like that, where you can change specific areas of your image and get closer to what you want more easily. So more iterations, getting closer to what you want, better interfaces, they will happen over time.
That was actually a really good question, really great answers. I never even thought about that, but you're gonna make me think now.
It's a hot take. The prompt engineering is directing is definitely like the Luddite crowd gets really angry when you say that.
We're brave, we like controversy. Do we have any other questions? Oh, okay.
Hello, thank you for everything. I've got a question about on the low side. The thing is, I have a difficulty to understand how we can give limits, because from the beginning as an artist, when you do something, you have like inspiration, and you have inspiration all around you. That's what builds you. And when you do like in mid-journey, you build something from what you want and from the inspiration you've got all around. The thing is, for instance, if I do like a Wes Anderson style image, in the end, when it will be built based on what I put inside. Like I want, I don't know, a mountain and a monster and things like this, a Wes Anderson style. In the end, okay, this is like the color that the Wes Anderson will use, and perhaps like the style will look Wes Anderson, but could we say that we cannot use it in production because it looks like Wes Anderson? Because, for instance, when like the Impressionism, they add like a style, and then there's a lot of artists using this kind of style, and then, I don't think that they were saying, oh no, don't do that because it looks my thing. It looks what I was doing, Mm-hmm. So I have a bit of difficulty to understand how can we lock the creativity based on saying, you can do the same way that they were doing, that Wes Anderson is doing, or something like this. So I don't know, what do we have to stop, and how can they lock the law,
You should answer this, but I have a very strong opinion on this one. Go.
A ver, para eso estamos los abogados y están los jueces, ¿no? Para determinar en función de tu interpretación, ¿no? Sí que es verdad que ya existen determinadas sentencias que, por ejemplo, en programas como Midjourney que mencionabas, no han protegido el resultado por cuanto no existía o no demostró el demandante una originalidad. Pero de todas formas también a veces nos volvemos locos, a mi modo de ver, con el tema de la originalidad o no. Voy a poner un ejemplo con el mundo de la música. los ritmos no se protegen. ¿Por qué? Porque el cha-cha-cha va a tener siempre el mismo ritmo. Lo que se protegen son las melodías si eres capaz de demostrar que es original. Entonces, yo a veces en la oficina nos llegan muchos casos o cuestiones así similares y es como, mira, el tema de la creatividad y por qué existe la propiedad intelectual es una cuestión de originalidad exacta. Es decir, evidentemente, desde la época de los griegos ya todas las tramas literarias existían, ¿no? Es decir, la novela de caballerías no es patrimonio de uno, es patrimonio de cualquiera que quiera escribir sobre eso. La cuestión es la originalidad. Ahora bien, si tú eres capaz de demostrar que has utilizado esa herramienta no para que cree una obra, sino la has utilizado como medio para crear tu obra, esa es la diferencia jurisprudencial ahora mismo en los tribunales. Ahora bien, con respecto a lo que te decía, o sea, es muy complicado determinar en propiedad intelectual la originalidad. Es una cuestión de prueba y de que tú demuestres para que el juez te pueda dar la razón.
So this is one of my absolute strongest areas of like emphatic feeling about AI. When we talk about what is legal and not legal now, and what should be legal and not legal as a result of what's happening, and ethics as well, and morals, dear God, please pay attention to who is behind those arguments, because they're not going to benefit us, the artists, and the small companies. The pause, that letter that went out a few months ago, we should all pause training large language models. One of the big names on it, Elon Musk, he bought 10,000 GPUs so that he could catch up. If that pause had gone into place, 2 weeks later, he bought 10,000 GPUs with the intention, hopefully, get enough people upset about language models that everyone demands a pause so that he could spend that 6 months doing exactly what he made everyone else stop. The people that are suing Stable Diffusion don't have the money to sue Stable Diffusion. So who's funding them? Those artists whose work was stolen. If we're not careful, the laws will be changed where having inspiration will become illegal, where you come up with an amazing character that's a little bit like a Disney character, a little bit, 5 years ago, and Disney looks at your Disney Plus account, and somebody in your household watched that movie, so they can kind of prove that you probably were inspired by their character. You lose your character, Disney owns it, they get bigger, they profit more. We have to be careful, the pitchforks that we're being encouraged as artists to rise up and fight these, this AI takeover. We're doing it in our own worst interest. We're going to extend copyright to include inspiration. We're going to go to infinite term copyright. Disney, Shutterstock, Getty, they're so effing excited that we are so dumb or so blinded with our fear about this that they can push us and manipulate us and say, it's about the art, it's about the artists. It's not. It's about the big companies protecting and growing their monopolies. Don't join that battle. I'm not saying don't fight for your jobs, but I am saying this whole, putting an AI thing and AI pledges, you're not going to win. The Digital Millennium Copyright Act did not help the world. Creative Commons was a reaction to the DMCA. The DMCA was awful for real people, but it was passed in the name of the real people, of making sure that the artist's work was not stolen. So, like I said, I'm very passionate about this. I'm not like, yay, I'm not Oppenheimer. Like, let's just, AI is pure good, let's just go, no rules. But pay attention to who is saying what and what their motivations are. Stable Diffusion, the head of that went, in front of the U.S. Congress and was like, it's very dangerous. Why would you fearmonger about your own product, your own company? What advantage is that, making the government afraid that your company is playing with very dangerous technology? Well, if you're a little bit ahead and that fear shuts the door behind you and makes it harder to compete with you, then that's a pretty good reason to do that. So just pay attention to the anti-AI rhetoric and who's behind it and who will benefit and who will lose. And just pro tip, the small guy always loses. Artists always lose. And I'm one, so please.
I was just gonna thank you all a lot for coming here, and I want to thank our speakers. You did an amazing job, and I think we all have something to think about now regarding AI. So yeah, I think we're all very hungry at this point. So let's go eat some pulpo and drink some Estrella Galicia, of course. Again, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.